George Kontos, NBC Sports Bay Area pre and post, former Giant reliever, pitched a ton in 2012 on that run to the World Series, also on the club in 2014. And interesting the way he broke that down about, in the playoffs, if it's the gut or the spreadsheet, or at some point, do you have to just manage in a different fashion?
Right. And I guess the question is, what is your gut telling you versus the numbers? And I think everything just deserves to have a happy medium, which is kind of a cop-out, but I do think it's the truth. Because to your point, and I was going to say it myself, but you beat me to it.
Nice.
Now, about Bumgarner, now you start thinking how many moves that Bruce Bochy made with the Giants, and we can do this with a lot of the different World Series, how many moves in baseball that ended up helping a team win the World Series, how many moves like that wouldn't have been made if you trusted the spreadsheet and trusted the numbers versus the gut? And how different could baseball be? I mean, who knows what happens if Blake Snell does stay in that game? Maybe he ends up giving up runs anyway. Maybe he doesn't, but now we'll never know. So it feels like just because this numbers, if you look at since the numbers became prevalent, how often have the numbers actually resulted in World Series? I mean, even the Dodgers, they got their championship, sure, that short season, but the Dodgers, they got into a lot of trouble with that, with trusting the numbers. I think the whole thing with the numbers situation is that the Red Sox, when they were rolling, they did it best in terms of the happy medium.
Yeah.
They trusted the numbers, but they went out and they spent some money, you know what I mean? And they made sure they weren't solely relying on the numbers. And that is why, if you're a Giants fan, you have been hoping and praying for a big fish, because the numbers game and the hidden gems game can only take you so far. You need a big fish. You need a cornerstone, a foundational piece to get it done. And then once you get in the playoffs, then you would trust your gut and things like that. And I would say this, honestly, Dibs, if we are going to say that maybe Bochy's numbers game is undersold, right? Maybe Gabe Kapler's gut game is undersold too. We haven't really seen him in the same situations yet.
Right.
But I don't know that every move he makes I don't know if he's as robotic as everybody wants him to be. And I don't know
That's an interesting point, but you haven't really heard Gabe Kapler say a lot in post-game interviews. I just went with my gut. It's usually we have a process and we analyze the situation, and Gabe Kapler always talks about matchups and opportunities, and the way he speaks about their approach is so fluent and so cogent, it drives some people crazy because it may come across as pompous or arrogant, but Gabe Kapler and his staff work very hard on winning every matchup, which is why Scott Alexander goes tonight as an opener. They feel like they can get those first 3 outs with Alexander. They can get their innings eater or their bulk innings guy to come in and then face the middle of the order and, roll over the lineup from there, to where when you get back to the top 3, those 3 wouldn't have already seen that same pitcher already. So then you can get your bulk guy to get through the lineup once, and then maybe you go to the pen again. George mentioned the Tampa Bay game, and I just pulled up the synopsis of it, and current Giant A.J. Pollock played a role in that. Tampa's up 1-0. Blake Snell's got a one-hitter, and they're up 1-0. A.J. Pollock pops out to second. Austin Barnes with a base hit to center field, and that's it. Out comes Kevin Cash. They go to the pen, and George just told the story about Mookie Betts drooling in the on-deck circle. Mookie doubles, a wild pitch, and then a fielder's choice, and the rest is history. So interesting what George said about the question of gut versus spreadsheet in the playoffs.
Right.
And I wonder if we get into the playoffs, if the Giants do, if Gabe Kapler doesn't adjust a little bit and go more to the gut.
Right. And in terms of the opener thing, my question is how many other teams are rolling with the opener layout as much as the Giants are? Because we obviously hear about with the Giants, but how prevalent is it throughout the rest of the league? Because that would tell me if it seems too off base, and even though the numbers do say, okay, this works, the opener thing to me is something that I would not trust in the playoffs, just because you're facing the best hitters. You're facing, you know what I mean? You're facing guys that are just about their business, and they've played at a high level throughout the season. That's why they're in the playoffs. So I am curious how many teams go with the opener. I would say, because the Giants are going with the opener, it's twice throughout the quote-unquote rotation.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
And now 15-7. I think George said 15-6. I believe they've lost their last two. Alexander gave up a 4 spot at the Angels his last time out. That was on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to turn right around and pitch him again tonight. And then Tristan Beck got the loss on Wednesday, another opener. So I believe now 15-7 using the openers. But the Giants don't really have another alternative at this point.
Right.
Unless you want to put your faith in Ross Stripling, which they might do. They might add him to the rotation. And the other piece would be Kyle Harrison, if you feel like he's able to come up. Mm-hmm. But even if he does come up from AAA, he'll be more of a glorified opener because I don't think he'll be ready to pitch more than 3 or 4 innings anyway.
No, if you wanted him to...
Shout out De La.
I was going to let it go, but thank you.
I got to throw it out there. It sounds better coming from me.
And it's Friday. We had a good run. You got to say it one more time.
We had a good run.
You got to say it one more time. It's almost as if, and I've never done this actually, Dibs. I do watch a lot of Food Network, but I've never done it. It's almost as if the opener, it's like reverse searing a steak, right? Reverse searing a steak. How do you
reverse sear a steak?
I believe reverse searing a steak is when you bake it off first and then you sear it versus typically you would sear it.
So you would bake it. Mm-hmm. So you cook the inside essentially first, yes, and then you would sear it after.
Yes, and
as opposed to searing it first and then finishing it.
I might be butchering it. Somebody can let me know. But yes, reverse searing a steak versus the typical way when you just sear it. And sometimes the reverse searing is nice if you want to show off for your lady or whatever it is. But other times, just sear the darn steak. And I think that's what Bochy would do, and I think that's what a lot of Giants fans want the Giants, even though they are 15-7, great record with the opener, wants the Giants to do, whether it's about the opener or about just the lineup in general, just sear the steak normally.
Keep it simple.
Just keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Stupid, the KISS method. Kyle Harrison pitched yesterday, incidentally, 3 1/3. He gave up 1 run. It was unearned, and his ERA dipping to 4.52. So Harrison just fresh off an appearance in Las Vegas. So if you were hoping or thinking that maybe he would get a call up and be ready to pitch, probably wouldn't be good to go until Tuesday, August 15th.
Right. So the Giants are going to open it up some more, see what they can do. I mean, we'll really know. And honestly, you look at the record with the opener, you've alluded to how tough this schedule is about to get. If they're able to come out on top and still have a nice looking record with the opener after this stretch with the Rangers in town, then the Rays, and then obviously the Braves, then maybe I'll feel more comfortable about it in the playoffs because those are all playoff teams.
Yes, winning percentage of .591, followed by .590, followed by .637 in Atlanta. Then Philadelphia comes in. They're currently leading the wild card. They're at .552 with a better record than the Giants. So the next 4 series in and of themselves are monsters. Then you get Atlanta again. Cincinnati, you might get a break with 4 at San Diego in the end of August into early September because the Padres, as I mentioned, doing the Michael Crabtree, they're doing the fade route right now. So by the time you get to the Padres in late August, early September, they might be ready to hang them up.
Right. Well, it's still somewhat of, and the Padres, they need to figure out. Padres, look, they're trying to figure out who they want a rivalry with. Padres fans want to fight everybody, want to argue with everybody.
They're rivals with themselves right now.
They're rivals with good baseball. That's what they're rivals with right now. So Giants, maybe they'll get a break there, but I'm sure the Padres are going to get up for that as well.
About 4.5 out in the wild card. San Diego is. The Giants have a 2.5 game lead on the Chicago Cubs. It's the Phillies are the top wild card. The Giants are second. Then the Marlins, Cubs and Reds are a half game back of Miami. Then Arizona 2.5 back. Then the Padres, they're lurking. They're trying to hang around 4.5 back, but they've dropped 4 games in a row. So the Padres might be a week away from, in a WEAK week away from dipping out and calling it a year.
Then you have the spoiler situation, though, so they'll be around.
No doubt.